All right, so happy Tuesday, everybody. It's kind of like my Monday because my husband decided to take an extra day, which I'm glad he did because he needs to take extra days if he needs to. I don't want him killing himself for anyone. Okay. It's extremely aggressive out, and I'm glad I released actually, I would say all of my demons. So the only new demons that I would have to deal with would be whatever I picked up that was then accelerated by the active environment, the extremely activated environment. And so I will act accordingly. Okay, so it was extremely cold this weekend, and the barometric pressure dropped extensively to where it was like a freeze warning on Monday morning. And that really messed with immune systems. It made me tired, made my husband tired. It also brought up a lot of mucus in me. And I had maybe one dream of pooping, and that was it. But I had to sleep yesterday when the sun was out, when there was abundant sunshine. And it was relatively getting warmer, okay? It was about 61 degrees. So from going all the way down to like 30 something degrees to then 60 as the barometric pressure rises, that also does a number on you. Okay. I mean, that's climate change when there are wild swings in the temperature, and that does something to an immune system. It develops more growth, more agedness. It develops also potential future die suddenlies. It also it makes someone a little bit more abundant, skinnier. Yeah, so so I knew I was trying to sit down. So my husband was outside taking care of stuff yesterday, doing stuff, and I was inside because I didn't want to be outside. It was too bright. And he has all the shades open. He has the front shades open, the back shades open. I'm just like, geez, this is like a night walker's nightmare and a day walker's paradise. So I tried to see if I could just sit downstairs and watch, whatever I was watching on Netflix. And I'm just like, there's no fucking way. I was driven upstairs like a night walker vampire, and I had to rest my eyes because it was very bright out. And then, and yeah, light sensitivity. They call it light sensitivity. Well, absolutely. Absolutely now. And I watched my show, and then I really had to take a nap and sleep. And it reminded me of a very small snapshot of what it was like where I could just barely move for a minute, when you think about it, back in July 2022, when the climate shifted so aggressively. But I couldn't move for a week. I only couldn't move for about an hour and a half, where I had to sleep. It was so necessary to sleep because it was an acclimation. It was an acclimation to the new atmosphere, and I had to eat before I sleep, which was my usual habit when I had the PMDD a long time ago, 20 years ago, was when I was home suffering from PMDD and I was going through an evolution. I was eating pounds and pounds of spaghetti, like a lot of spaghetti. I haven't had to eat so much spaghetti like I did the last few weeks, but I ate like peanut butter and crackers and other snacks. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been, which means that this summer, around July 4th weekend, and the system is going to turn things up a notch here and there, because that's the usual status quo right now during climate change. I would imagine it'll be a bit easier. I always use quotes because everything is relative. Okay, everything is relative. But food has always been the thing that carried me through climate change and evolution. And right now that's happening almost every week. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand people who don't feel anything. Well, yeah, they're under the influence. They're dying. Well, okay, that's granted. That's actually what the situation is. People can't feel anything. They're starving, or they're dying, or they're under the influence. And okay, that's great. Okay. I know my husband feels stuff. I know that when he used that chainsaw, it rattled the shit out of him. It made him very sore and very much in pain. And okay. And he's going like, damn, I used to be able to use those chainsaws back when I was like a little spider monkey climbing the trees way back when. Yeah, well, things have changed. You're in a type of biological climate change along with the external environment. And so he had to rest up from some stuff. And so it's just, I mean, everyone's realizing that the environment and even their old lifestyle is not going to cut it anymore. Some people are in denial, and so they starve themselves and they get on all types of different speed 'em up types of supplements or drugs or whatever to deny that there is something aggressive going on. And so they are resisting change, and that's going to work against you. People are staying away from food. They're saying that food is poison. They're against the cricket powder. I don't have any issue with cricket powder. No issue at all with cricket. It's just a type of food. They've done all the research on the type of nutritional elements like calcium that's in cricket powder and whatever else that we're using. I'm not a fan of plant-based meat, but I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. But if they decide to take cancer cells from a cow and grow hamburgers from that, I'm perfectly fine with that. Cancer is just an immortalized germline cell. But when it's in a body that is trying to stay alive, cancer is an opposing force that you have to go and try to destroy. But cancer outside of a body just by itself is not really called cancer. It's just a type of energy that could be converted into whatever it needs to be converted, or it just decays and gets ravaged by the environment. And so I've mentioned stuff about Lucifer, about Luciferian. And I know people are very religious. They don't consider themselves Luciferian. They don't realize their religion, their politics, their sciences are all about Luciferian. The truther movement, the walk towards the light, being a light worker. Was it love and light? Love, 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 light, light, light. You realize that's death. That's all about glorifying death. Killing you with kindness. That's the 1960s. That's the Christian revival, the cult revolutions. That was Charles Manson. And that's why I posted again that Charles Manson song about Look at Your Game Girl. Because, yeah, they've been planning this stuff for such a long time. What stuff? The Great Reset. The system has been planning this Great Reset ever since probably way before the 1930s. But since I'm Gen X and I had access to the 1930s because I knew my grandmother, my adopted grandmother at the time, way back in the 80s. I've been in touch with the past, with those who were raised in the 1920s and 30s. Flappers, scat singers, all that stuff. Okay, so when you look at the 1930s and the reefer madness and then all the starting of the MK Ultra and the whole Marilyn Monroe and the sexualizing everything and Hollywood, classic golden Hollywood. And then you look at today, and you look at between today and golden classic of Hollywood, and you see what women were subjected to. Starvation, having to look extremely highly sexualized, and expected to have children, and under major experimentation in different suburbs and cities and other cultures and religions. And so it's Luciferian is knowledge. It is bringing forth knowledge in different homogenized circumstances where even the people who are in that specific culture, let's say a Midwestern town, are not even aware that they're under human experimentation. But one day they will be aware, and could they handle that awareness? That's Luciferian, is when you finally get light cast upon your situation and you finally see things for what they are, not for what they were told to you, not by what your parents, because your parents are under experimentation. Like when you think about the baby boomers, and I was studying all the different generations the last 7 years, and I'm studying the 7 generations, and I'm studying the boomers. I'm thinking, why would there were so many kids? Why? I mean, it's not just war. War doesn't always produce so many children, but war had a helper because there were some women that were infertile. And so when you have a certain population that's infertile for whatever reason, because That's kind of how humans are supposed to be infertile until someone activates their sexual reproduction. Then all the different drugs that were given to women back in the 1930s and 40s and 50s then caused them to be so fertile. That's why you had you had big families anyways back in the 1930s and 20s and the 1800s, because you looked at some of the old pictures from not only the Great Depression, but yeah, the Dust Bowl and all those times, even before that, 1918, 1917, 16. Well, that was during the flu pandemic. But then you saw how robust, like you had these women that are in the Dust Bowl, and they were like Dorothea Lange photos of women in shantytowns with like 5 kids. Okay, so then that was the Farm Bureau recording cultures of women with so many children, and the kids being used in industrial slavery, and either in the fields or in the factories. But then you saw and then right after the World War II, then you saw that was the baby boom, and women were injected with so many different fertility treatments. Fertility is deadly. It's Luciferian. That's why I understand the Hebrews and other people saying how they're against Ishtar and against Easter and Easter eggs and paganism, and they're basically worshiping the ovum, the eggs, worshiping the motherhood, forcing their young daughters to have children. And that's part of the whole religion, whether it's Hebrews, whether it's Christian, whether it's born again Christian. And they're like, oh, I'm against paganism and Ishtar, and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna worship my kids and worship pregnancy and worship eggs and worship fertility. Do you realize big families worship fertility regardless of religion? Okay? And so that's Luciferian. Luciferian is when you finally wake up to everything. And then you have the truth movement who are so radicalized. What's radicalized? They are driven by the light. Some are more aggressive than others. Some say, oh, I'm a light worker. I'm all about love and light and kill you with kindness and love, 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 and flitting around with all of their filmy outfits and giving you holistic remedies and saying that they will be your savior or whatever, or say that's Satan. And that's Luciferian. That's the 1960s, 1920s and 30s and 40s. Luciferianism and all these different movements of collective cultures that run your world, they've always been Luciferian. It wasn't like they hid it. Doesn't mean it's bad. You have to understand that they have to regulate the population, because people will just keep having kids and having a bunch of crazy sex and drugs and rock and roll, and then say that someone else is doing it to them and they do it to themselves, and then you have wars and falls of civilization and crazy diseases and all that stuff. And oh my gosh, Luciferianism. And so Lucifer. So let me read this. Lucifer and the food pyramids. The system banning treats like snacks, etc. It's like my mom denying us treats, junk food, because she was afraid we could not control ourselves. So we didn't have the ho-hos and the Twinkies and the chips and the dips and all the things that the kids in the 80s had access to. We didn't have that shit. Well, as children, I understand that mentality as people pass on genetic defects to their children, causing hormonal responses developing into pathologies. I suppose that the system must ban certain foods off the market, then some people might be more apt to eat meat, milk, and cheese, and eggs, fruits, and veggies, and potentially rebuild, release, and reconstruct. But then again, people will starve because there is not much food deficient humans can eat. Well, you see all the gluten-free food allergy people. However, in this accelerated environment, all foods are necessary, and even junk food, if that is the only thing a person can eat due to hormonal imbalances. Now, let me cycle back to as far as the food allergies. I'm watching 6 Feet Under, and I'm seeing also other seeds planted into the population. When Lily Taylor, she plays a part as a vegan in that show in one of the segments I'm watching. Now, I understand, yes, you don't give babies antibiotics like honey. Now, as far as peanut butter, that the whole peanut allergy, there might be something in the peanuts that's so nutritional that activates a child's immune system. Nuts, proteins, fats, that then the body is reacting to releasing the demons. Because nuts aren't poison. Nuts are not poison. At what point did nuts become poison? See, and that was the thing. The grandmother to that actor was saying, well, my kids never had any issue with nuts. Why do your kids have an issue with nuts or whatever? Why are you denying your child nuts as a baby or peanut butter? Because kids are born now even more deficient. They can't handle food because food will activate their immune system, cause a growth and a release that people are not equipped to deal with. And so it just proves how so much rampant reproduction on bodies that were not in deficit before, but that became more in deficit as they kept reproducing children. But you see, we're not even that far into the future from the 1930s. It's only like 6 or 7 generations, if that now you're seeing a cause that those generations of children are weaker and weaker. Now you're seeing them, they can't even eat gluten, flour. They can't even eat sugar and salt and meat and milk and cheese and eggs. These poor kids are relegated to almost nothing. And they're growing up deficient, growing up breaking their bones, growing up on supplements, growing up on elderberry syrup. These kids are growing up on foods and herbs that are not giving them the strong foundation to be able to handle climate change and anything else that may go on in their world. When kids are breaking their bones at like 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, that's pretty scary. That kids are breaking their bones like grandma's breaking her hip. Well, kids now are dying suddenly on the field in this environment. And so there is not much food deficient humans can eat. And the mother takes them to salt caves because when they have mucus coming out, mom doesn't want her kid to release mucus, and the kid can't eat food because it's poison, right? They have allergies. So the mother freezes everything in the body, going into salt caves. Eventually, you can't be cured, and the body's going to want to move again, and the kid won't survive an energy conversion. However, in this accelerated environment, all foods are necessary, and even junk food, if that is the only thing a person can eat due to hormonal imbalances. Is it preferable someone to live off of junk food? Well, that depends on who you ask and what time of day it is. At this point, it won't matter what dying people eat if they cannot even stomach the main food groups found in the USDA recommended daily allowances for survival in the old world. Since the climate change, all the recommended daily allowances are just a benchmark to work from, but not to be set in stone. So back when I was doing the jelly juice stuff, and I had a bunch of salt in the jelly juice, and people were like, oh God, this is surpassing the recommended daily allowance. I'm like, well, how the fuck could they even say something universal when you have so many different bodies? They cannot say that you should only have this much salt unless they don't want people to even activate their immune system. So the less salt that they recommend, the less activated your immune system is. Then when this climate changes and then the climate becomes activated, and you're not prepared for it, people don't survive immune system activation. So the J juice was actually a, what do you call it? It was a conditioning for climate change, of which I didn't know this was going to happen. Remember, this came out in 2016. So innately, I knew we were going to be dealing with some shit. Of course, I couldn't put it into words. I couldn't even say I consciously knew that we were going to be having some kind of pandemic in 2019. But the J juice was the immune system activation. It was the salt that people were not getting. They were deficient in because they had to be activated. Yeah, people would activate their blood vessels, and some of the antigen antibody programming that were just sitting kind of just lazily around in their bloodstream was activated, and it moved, and the body needed to move it. And sometimes there were sudden events because they already held those deposits inside of their bloodstream. It was just a matter of time when it would be activated. But at least with the whole J world in a slower frequency environment back in 2016, they survived those heart attacks and strokes that they probably would not have survived if they had it come on later on. So I actually, when you think about it, again, I saved a lot of people because they did survive their sudden events and then even potentially could condition their body to deal with more of the body releasing the demons. And so when you think about an ionic environment during climate change, which is basically particle acceleration, now people are getting their immune system activated, and some can handle it in the J world because they've been conditioned for it. Others fucking are dying from it because they've never been conditioned for it. That's what you're finding out right now. And so all the recommended daily allowances back then were built for setting you up for a major fall if you didn't understand what was going on. And we didn't back then, but now we do. Hindsight's 2020. So since the climate has changed, all the recommended daily allowances are just a benchmark to work from, not to be set in stone. With all the new information coming through Facebook, YouTube, and the internet, you must use the government sources as barometers of the old world. Realize we are in climate change, encroaching upon the new world. And now you must apply whatever knowledge you can, absorb, and realize if you want to live potentially a long time, you need way more than the recommended daily allowance for all the 4 food groups in the food pyramid, which means you need gluten, milk, and meat, and red meat, cabbage, etc. How can your kids survive living on gluten-free everything, salt-free everything, sugar-free everything, milk-free everything? Who told anyone starvation, sunlight was the only thing humans could live on? Oh, Luciferian people who say follow the light, live off the light, eat only air sandwiches, sun gaze. Oh, God. So that's why when someone posted this, it's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. No shit. You know how hard it was? How hard it is to, well, it's hard to even to build strong children because some children resist. They're like, screw you, I'm only eating this. And they react, and some of these kids are deadly. There was an article that a 7-year-old killed a man. They found out 3 years later that he was 7 years old when he killed a man. So he was 10 years old when they found out. Then he admitted when he was 7 years old, he killed a stranger. Yeah. Strong children do not have food allergies. Period. And they're not against the food supply offered by the government. Strong children have 0 issues with any food offered to them. Strong children are not denied food. So what's left? Weak children and weak adults. Your intolerance to any food speaks to building a case for some future aggressive situation. Again, if food is painful, you're starving. Cancer patients who are on the diets do not survive the treatments. That's right there should be an indicator. Which is why skinny men and skinny women diagnosed with cancer do not survive treatments. I knew someone back then, a few years ago before climate change, did not survive, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He looked so healthy before he went to get all the oncology and whatever else they did to him. And then we went through the treatments. He had his hair, his head was shaved. He looked like someone from the freaking Holocaust. He was getting radiated. He was getting so many other things going on to him. He looked like basically death's door. When he finally died 6 months later from all those treatments, and he was skinny, Japanese man, he did not survive the treatments. If he would have ate food and pulled out the crap and released the demons and ate all the food and rested and not traveled so much and be all over, everywhere and have people recommend him cannabis and everything else, he might have survived his pancreatic cancer if we can release those demons. But that was not the world he lived in. That's not the world he lives in. That's not the world we live in. And so he died from all the treatments. He died from all the treatments. That's basically what he died from. He didn't die from the cancer. He could have survived the cancer, but he died from the treatments. And even if he did, those methods that are over there in Mexico, where it's just juicing everything, he would have died at some point. because you can't just juice your way out of something. That's starvation. Juicing shit. And so strong children do not have food allergies, period. And they're not against the food supply offered by the government. Strong children have zero issues with any food offered to them. Strong children are not denied food. So what's left? Weak children and weak adults. Your intolerance to any food speaks to building a case for some future aggressive situation. Again, if food is painful, you're starving. Cancer patients who are on diets do not survive the treatments. That right there should be an indicator. Which is why skinny men and skinny women diagnosed with cancer do not survive the treatments. People diagnosed with cancer are starving, and they hold opposing forces within, and food is too painful for them to release those demons. They need the food and the pain more than they need those treatments, supplements, remedies, surgeries. Yes, life is a suffering when you're that deficient. The reason why the hospital system exists is so you keep working for somebody else until you destroy yourself. Medical insurance is basically occupational health, so you can keep serving your friends and your family and your employer, which is why it's easier to build strong children than broken adults. But at this rate, we have a lot of weak children and weak adults. So that's why we're in a great reset. You can't make people suffer to live, so you give them the next best thing called rest and peace, died suddenly, so no suffering. If you're against diet suddenly, stop treating all your stupid diseases. Get off the drugs and alcohol. Scale down your materialistic lifestyle. Stop encouraging your kids to have babies. That's why we have cancer, because people are diluting their own genetic line with children. And mothers are the most susceptible to this because they're forced to have children from the people that they claim to love and claim to love them. The system knew how resistant people were to change, and the only way to make death so beautiful was to give death talent and artistic ability and fashion sense. That's Hollywood and the fashion industry. Starving artists who make it big when they're dead. That's ironic, right? In this society right now, death is fucking gorgeous. And life is miserable and ugly and lonely to those who are dying from the outside looking in. So someone looking at my life be like, oh, Jillian's miserable. Jillian's staying at home. She doesn't have any fucking friends. Jillian doesn't do anything. She just sits here and clunks on the computer and watches Netflix all day and eats food and shits and pulls crap out of her ass. And that's all Jillian's life is. And that's it. Oh, remember, I'm 50 years old. I've had a large life the last 50 years. Now it's time to fucking pay the piper and survive climate change. So I've done most of everything out there. I've done more than what most people have done. Okay? I've done everything. I've done a lot, and I survived it. And I had to suffer through paying the piper for that great life that I had. Now we're into the next world. And I'm going to stay home and stay safe, and I'm going to be miserable. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm not going to be joining people out there drinking and doing drugs and gallivanting like there's no fucking climate change. I'm not playing those games out there. I'm playing shit smart now because I've had 50 years behind me to learn all my stupid lessons I had to learn. They're not stupid, but you know how it is. All right? And so life is miserable and ugly and lonely to those who are dying from the outside looking in. People look at my life and they scoff at my lifestyle. Because you're dying. Dying people cannot possibly fathom somebody staying home and staying safe and completely not addicted to anything with no complaints against the government and who is tolerant to all food with no fear against change in the food supply. Dying people cannot fathom somebody not afraid of the chemical trails or water vapors. Dying people cannot understand balance. And so someone like me, they kill with kindness or they mock indefinitely. Or they look at quizzically like, who the fuck is this person? Miserable, alive people, according to the dying people, realize how deadly the sun can be. Realize how deadly society is right now, and they want no part of it. I'll take part in some stuff, but I won't kill myself or anyone. And so I said, hashtag die suddenly, great reset. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So IFL Science says extremely active Atlantic hurricane season could be in store this year or nothing at all. So now I learned how to take IFL Science with both sides. It could be nothing or it could be everything. But what do you want to risk? You want to risk something to be catastrophic, or you figure out how you're going to figure out your escape plan. Take the money and run if it's about insurance. Reverend Cecil Williams died. He was the pastor of Glad Memorial Church over there in San Francisco in the Tenderloin. And experiments are only means of knowledge at our disposal. The rest is poetry and imagination. Max Planck. This lady, mom, 34, left with 6 months to live as cancer ravages her body. Yeah. So basically she thought she had acid reflux. Now I've got 6 months to live. Agony of mother, 34, diagnosed with bowel cancer, who fears her 3-year-old daughter will forget me. So here's the thing. You know, my husband, back when 2020, so there's people that died in the world of where he worked, died suddenly in their truck. That was right there the indicator something was going to happen. So you have people that just die suddenly in their truck. Maybe they had diseases or something, but hey, people manage disease for a long time. But they die suddenly in their truck. And then 2020 comes around. And it's like September. So when you think about it, that whole 2020 was the whole heating up of everything. And there was a wedding, and there was a bachelor party that we went to. And there was a wedding and all that. And then comes September of 2020. And he changed jobs and all that time at that time. And then there was a wedding that we had to go to. Well, right before the wedding, my husband thought he had a heart attack. He didn't have a heart attack, but he had major acid reflux. Major, where it caused him to pass out. And luckily he survived that situation. But he went to the hospital. They checked for cardiac enzymes. They didn't find anything. He stayed home. He was weak. He felt extremely sick. He missed the wedding. I went stag. Okay. And then I got some kind of acid reflux after I went to a party in August of last year. And I blew up, like super huge. I got major acid reflux. And I ate so much Jell-O thinking that the amino acid was going to rebuild my bones. I did too much of it. But my husband survived the situation. I released the demons. I had to literally release those demons so it didn't turn into something crazy. And so luckily my husband has a strong butthole to release stuff. I have a strong way of releasing on both ends. And so, yeah, I've had my experience with major acid reflux. And I released that demon. And it was an angry, yellow, choleric demon. But this person, she didn't want to understand this information. She's not even exposed to this information. The cancer is going to ravage her. Because she'll be starving. She won't eat the food. She'll be prescribed treatments and diet. She'll be done. She's done. That's what's in it for a lot of people. And so, yeah, Children of the Corn is happening. Stunning confession. Deputies say a 10-year-old boy admitted to killing this man as a 7-year-old. Some of these kids are like little adults. And some of these kids have a screw loose. You can sometimes see it in their eyes. You can see it in their mannerisms. You can see it in their personalities. And you have oblivious mothers who are like, oh, I love you, my son. And they see nothing wrong with their kid. Of course not. Of course not. Mothers are oblivious. Fathers are oblivious. They develop that kid to be whatever. Yeah, we're going to have some crazy shit. That's why I don't deal with anyone. I won't deal with other people's kids anymore. I'm done with all that. You don't know what it is you're getting nowadays. And that's why the system doesn't want you to have children, because look what we're developing. Serial killers at 7 years old. That ought to scare the shit out of you if you're even lucid enough. All right, so here you go, the daywalker, nightwalker stuff, right? This was yesterday. Abundant sunshine today. Wow, that was yesterday. It was so bright, it drove me upstairs. I had to take a major nap. Heart was racing. I ate about 1/4 cup of peanut butter and a few crackers, and I had to take a nap. I made sure my husband had something to eat because it is very bright outside. He is a daywalker, like most people who love the sunshine. And there's a price to pay. I am a night walker. I seriously understand allegory today. Days like this, you feed that energy, crackers, a lot of protein, milk, and meat, and cheese, and eggs. That's why I blacked out my room. If you are celebrating food bans, you've already lost. So there's a lot of people on Facebook who are in the holistic world who think that food is poison. No, you're just deficient. That's when you say that food is poison, you're basically saying to everyone that you can't handle food, you can't handle water, you can't handle air, you can't handle environment. You're paving the way for diet suddenly. You're going to be a future diet suddenly. If you are celebrating food bans, you've already lost. When the system has to ban certain foods, the general population will die suddenly at some point. I can survive on all types of food, but if you have to ban food, you're done. If you celebrate food being banned, you're done. And you're showing your weakness. Those are the weak adults. And the weak children, because the parents can take the food away from their kids, right? It's pretty interesting to see those who celebrate this type of food ban. The next died suddenly people that'll probably blame the vaccines or the genetically modified food in the air and the water. Banning food builds a diet suddenly case for those who celebrate starvation. And they are the next round of diet suddenly. The climate shifts again. They can't handle it. They take away more food, treat themselves with more herbs and supplements and things to speed them up so they can power through. And then they get lost in the light, in the energy, right? You can't feel sorry for anyone anymore. They celebrate starvation. What is the outcome of starvation? Died suddenly. What is the outcome of food allergies? Died suddenly. I tried to tell you, the food was never the poison or the issue. Even the ingredients were never the issue. It was user error. It was end user error. You became deficient for your environment. When you have universal food bans, you have an intolerant, starving population living off of herbs, supplements, and fumes. Extremely sad state of affairs. Extremely sad. And so when they say, oh gosh, everyday food snacks facing ban, Lucky Charms, Flaming Hot Cheetos, Gatorade, and Oreos. This is only really great for only those who are malnourished and deficient, those who believe they should think that they've won. They should happen think that they've won. Oh, fuck. I believe they should. Oh, my God. All right, I'm deleting that. What an idiot I can be. I didn't. Obviously. I'm just going to leave this. Save. Sometimes I don't read all my stuff. That's idiocy on my end. I'll admit I could be idiotic. If you happen to think. Sorry. I gotta correct that. Sometimes I just don't see everything. Obviously. Alright, there's that. I'm just going to delete it. Just the picture. Alright. Okay. So anyways, so you can start over again, start over in the same body. You do not have to die and reproduce to start over again, but that would require a lifestyle change and a change in your belief system. If you can't even take devil's advocate around anything, you won't understand where I'm coming from. Biological immortality is the ability to change your mind, and then you have to do the work. Because once you die and your spirit is in the universe, you will compete for a body and then suffer all over again, or be lost in limbo, looping like you are today. Just like The Walking Dead told you. Running your hamster wheel or somebody else's hamster wheel into the ground. Looping. Okay? And so I learned about Luciferianism, but in different contexts, like different religions, when I was in college. Now I look back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, all the people that advocate death and dying and reproducing, Luciferian, completely. Those who say that food is poison, Luciferian. Those who want to be a savior or a hero to somebody, Luciferian. Those who want big families, yeah, Luciferian. Right? That's the whole chemical reaction of the egg and the sperm coming together and light. Right? Thank you, City College of San Francisco, and my comparative religion class. I did read parts of the Bhagavad Gita. Even college can give you an introduction to the Luciferian system you uphold and resist once you become aware. We are being given a golden opportunity to redirect if we understand how to redirect the system's intentions, if that is your intention. And so every religion and spirituality is justifying people sacrificing themselves, getting hypnotized first, and then jumping in the water, being pulled down by the sea nymphs, signing on the dotted line. To say that even Jesus freed the captured souls from Lucifer is still acknowledging that a person is just light and their body is just a vessel. That's literal human sacrifice. This comes from all the different ascension belief systems. It's Luciferian. So you have ascension in the energy healing world. You have ascension in the Jesus Christ world. You have ascension in so many different worlds. What is that? Oh, it's going towards the light. Luciferian. Luciferian. Every religion is Luciferian. Even the Hindu religion, because all the different spices causing immune system deterioration, opposing forces. Why do you think even China and India, even though they've been around for a long time, the foods, the spicy foods and whatever else, okay, is causing sexual reproduction? And so in the Bogomil and the Cathar text Gospel of the Secret Supper, Lucifer is a glorified angel but fell from heaven to establish his own kingdom and became the demiurge who create the material world and trap souls from heaven inside matter. Jesus descended to earth to free the captured soul. Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches that one can kill only the body. The soul is immortal. At death, the soul is reborn in another body, or for those who have fully grasped the true teaching, it achieves release, moksha, or extinction, nirvana. That is, freedom from the wheel of rebirth. Oh, Lordy. Okay. And so, the more you hate, resent, and resist me, the less I'll be looked at as a hero or a god. That is my intention. I do not want to be loved or even respected by so many people. I want you to find the power in yourself and deal with your personal darkness and survive it, or else you'll be blinded and destroyed by all the light bringers in your world. And they are a dime a dozen, and they will love you to death, and they will kill you with kindness. And so Lucifer is also employed by demons. Lucifer also employed demons from third world nations with fake accounts looking for people who mention herbs and sicknesses and then post about their favorite doctor remedy with their WhatsApp number for you to call them and purchase their concoctions. It never fails when I mention something about herbs or something else. And then you get these people from third world countries with fake accounts that have either a general or somebody white who's either a girl or a boy. And they're like, oh, hey, here's my favorite doctor, and here we have a remedy for all your different ailments. And so Lucifer also tells you that your body is a vessel and your soul lives forever. Lucifer will tell you, you are the light. Live in the light, he said. How many influencers are out there who are against the New World Order? Tell everyone that your body is a vessel and your soul lives forever. So many of them. I can't even say they're controlled opposition. Well, they are. Everyone is controlled opposition because you're regulated by the government. But I can't say if he is a plant that was paid very well for what he does, or that he gets paid very well for his belief system and he just repeats what he found somewhere that someone said, like on 6 Feet Under or Grey's Anatomy or The Walking Dead, right? So all these different shows that we've been exposed to ever since who knows when has planted a seed in people that then they take those seeds and grow some kind of activists and obviously influential. So that was born from the 1960s. Live in the Light, San Francisco, California, the Christian revival. Because the system knew once the climate changed, people's vessels will fall apart. Charles Manson knew. That's why he destroyed Sharon Tate. She was a representation of women diluting not only themselves but their families by developing so much family that eventually there would be an extinction of that family. And ultimately, if we kept going that direction, it would be of the human race. And so the system knew and knows that's what was going to happen if we went that specific direction and never changed something. And so the system preempted what was already set to happen anyways, so that way they can find a way to redirect and maybe pull some more knowledge out of the population during that time. That's the Generation X. We are the variables. And so you have so many worshipers of light, meditation, tantric sex, and big families. This specific website is proof how pervasive these virtual religions are. And you have beautiful skinny girls selling you a lifestyle with a beautiful man hypnotizing you into marijuana and starvation. All right? So there's this website called The Body as a Sacred Vessel for the Soul. Yeah, that's another Luciferian. So the Jilly Juice was Luciferian because it woke up your immune system and activated it. Then we evolved and dealt with the darkness of pain and suffering, and we understood the power of all food, rest, and release. Now, if you understand me, you won't die for the light of the darkness. You will figure out how to balance both. All right? I was never just a light bringer. I understood the power of the darkness and light and balanced both. Climate change and global warming is Luciferian. because hell has also frozen over in some places. The sun and the light will destroy those who cannot sit in the darkness to rest their eyes. That's why I stay away from healers and light bringers. They aim to destroy you through their light. They claim to be your hero and savior. They want to take away your pain and suffering, your life, ultimately. I saved myself. There are no heroes out there, just death angels. Be a hero to yourself. That's the only thing that will save you, whatever that means to you in your world. And so, workarounds are not survivable. Surgery, remedies, herbs, medicine, the sin of mediators, therapies, workarounds. What's a workaround? Bypass of a recognized problem or limitation in a system. A workaround is a bypass of a recognized problem or limitation in a system or policy. A workaround is typically a temporary fix that implies that a genuine solution to the problem is needed, but workarounds are frequently as creative as true solutions, involving outside-the-box thinking in their creation. Typically, they are considered brittle, that they will not respond well to further pressure. Yeah, it's not supposed to be forever. It's supposed to be just a temporary fix. That's what the medical, holistic, energy healing world is. But then if you live on that shit and you pass it down to your kids, well, there you go. Whatever. People are weird. People think I'm weird. Well, I don't blame you. Give me 1 second. Luciferianism. Passover died suddenly. Easter fertility died suddenly. So if you're against the paganism and Easter eggs, but all about the big families and worshipping ovums and ovulation and motherhood, Ishtar, really? A little hypocritical, but I guess that's kind of the world it is today. So infertility will be the end of some adults, and infertility will be the beginning for other adults. I'm infertile, but I do not need a baby to carry on my genetic line. I am my genetic line who does not dilute her resources or give away her body, mind, or spirit for pittance. Worshipping fertility or fertility goddesses and gods is Luciferianism. Blinded by the light. That's most people out there. So if you're against Ishtar, but you're all about procreation, babies, and big families, that's speaking out of both sides of your mouth. I'm tired of seeing some people slam Ishtar and they have a big family and they practice major procreation. They say they're against the Illuminati when they are the Illuminati. They expect their children to have children. They worship fertility. When you sacrifice a mother and father and other people for another life form, that's Lucifer, blinded by the light. To me, my own life is valuable. I want people to value their own life, not somebody else's, not worshiping a child or a parent or anyone else for that matter. To be a hero to anyone is to be blinded by the light. To be a hero to yourself, save yourself. If you cannot save yourself, you'll practice Lucifer behavior and try to save someone else and then blame somebody. When one person is divvied up into family or divided up into family members, they just diluted that genetic line and made it so weak that any climate change causing died suddenly, especially now. Causes died suddenly, especially now. Women are the most vulnerable to Lucifer because she was taught to depend on everyone, not herself. That's why Lucifer was like a man, right? Because the women are most vulnerable to someone like a Lucifer. He's hot, he's sexual. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. But if you don't control Lucifer and his light, then that light will turn you into darkness. That's why women have to control their body and how much somebody takes from their body, mind, and spirit. And women are most susceptible to their children, to their husbands, to their family. Because women are taught that she has to basically sacrifice herself. The worship of gods and goddesses are extremely Luciferian. That includes elders, deities, and people you look up to who look down upon you because you forced them to. When you rely on a hero or someone to save you from whatever, you are practicing Luciferianism, bought into the Luciferian system. If you are intending to take away someone's pain and suffering with solutions, you are practicing Luciferianism. And the Luciferian is a belief system that venerates the essential characteristics that are affixed to Lucifer. About Venus and everything, right? if you must be a hero in someone's world, you are practicing Luciferianism. And so when you have people who are lonely and they can't handle being on their own, they have to go worship someone, or they have to have a baby to go worship and be a hero to that baby. The truth movement is Luciferian because people will die for bringing the truth and light into a stranger's world. Many truthers are dying for the cause, just like their counterparts, the mainstreamers, who are in denial and oblivious to the world they live in. That was the intention. You are the Illuminati. If you are a truther, you will die for your beliefs. Those are in the anti-V world, the chemtrails world, the anti-food world, the medical, holistic energy healing world. If you have to be a savior or Superman, that's Luciferian. Those are all the activists who have a solution to take away your pain and suffering. So all the Marvel comics, all the different superheroes, Superman, Batman, it's Luciferian. Even take away food from you. You see, you were programmed to resist everything until you passed away. You were used as a tool, and you will continue to be used as a tool until you can finally sit in the darkness on your own, eat food, and change the way you do stuff. All religions out there are Luciferian, bringing so much light you'll end up in the darkness forever. And you signed on the dotted line. The desire to make so much money and be a hero in someone's world is Luciferian. If that's your goal, the light will destroy you. The light is destroying a lot of people. Okay? And so, yeah, how do you tell? You don't tell people who are all religious, whatever, they're Luciferian, because they won't fucking believe you. They'll think you're Luciferian. No, you realize that the whole thing with the religion and the angel and the light and all that stuff. I mean, would I go as far as say that Jesus is like a Luciferian? Well, he's bringing light to people's world, right? And so are those that are the healers, the occultists. It's all Luciferian. The whole system is Luciferian. Because you were in the darkness before, and it was so dark, right? You had the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. The ignorance was astronomical. Now you have so much knowledge. You have the internet, you have the religions, you have the politics and the science. There's so much information. People are dying from the information because they don't know how to organize it. And so it's like getting a windfall of gold and silver and baubles and currency. You're just like, people are, I don't know, man. They don't know how to handle the energy that is now for free. They can't handle free energy. Like, oh, Tesla's so great, right? JP Morgan's so awful. No, JP Morgan knew how to control the energy because people were stupid around energy. People are still stupid around energy. They can't handle the energy. Just look at your fucking Facebook. They can't handle air. They can't handle food. They can't handle water. They can't handle really any kind of change. They're off over the rainbow in complete denial, or they're trying to be your hero. They're trying to be your savior. They're stuck in their doctrines, stuck in biases, and they want to have big families. They worship motherhood and fatherhood and sisterhood and brotherhood. I mean, it's done. It's fucking done. And so those that get it, that's why it's going towards a science world. But even those who are science-oriented, if they don't understand how to balance out entropy with negentropy and go back and forth, even the science world people are not going to survive even their own belief system as far as the science is. So it doesn't even matter. Because then your science is like a religion. Oh, get a V, don't get a V. Get this operation, get this treatment, get this, find another cure. Oh, worship scientists who are like, yeah, we found another one, another sucker born. There is a sucker born every minute. So when you finally walk away and you face the pain and suffering, eat all food, and you don't discriminate towards the food and everything else, and you're not trying to be a savior or Satan to anyone's world, you're not trying to save them, you're not trying to sell them a supplement or a detox, you're not on cannabis or alcohol or drugs, and you learn to be on your own. How many people can actually do that? Nah, not many. People have dug themselves so deep, so far into the hole, they can't get out. And that really sucks. Some people can finally get out of the hole that they've dug themselves because they're not so stuck into the mainstream and following the crowd. And maybe they've strategized their survival of either working from home or are independently wealthy or finally filed Social Security and can live off of that and still get the main resources, the meat, the milk, the cheese, and the eggs. And they stay home and stay safe and they look for indicators. And they try to fall over the deep end when things happen. But wow, yeah. So yeah, Luciferianism, it's everywhere. People are dying in the light. And again, it's easier to build strong children once all the weak children die suddenly, because that's what's going to happen. The strong children have the parents that finally see the writing on the wall and they stop playing the same games that other parents play. And they stay home and stay safe. And they have relative control over that child. And even they know that child is dangerous, they probably don't really have much power over that kid. The system does. And I don't even know how parents could help their kids if they don't even know what kind of personalities that kid holds inside and what could be triggered based upon a change in the environment. That's why it's so scary now. Because all the changes in the environment, people's personalities are changing all the time. I mean, we had a good day on Saturday, right? Or Sunday. It was Saturday. We had a pretty good day on Saturday. My husband and I said that, And then it was Sunday. It was like, okay. So it was, the light was pretty aggressive on Sunday. And then yesterday, actually, yeah. I don't know, man. And then I became very stoic, very unemotional, very because I'm blowing my nose. And so, yeah, so when people are saying that they have seasonal sexual orientation, I just watched that with my husband. He was watching some video on some right-wing people that are making fun of those who are different sexual orientations. And I'm like, oh, God. But yeah, I could see if someone has specific sexual orientations and they're different personalities, like a bipolar, tripolar, whatever, that even different seasons can bring up certain things in people. Okay? Absolutely. That's why I think what's going on out there, watching different people do what they do, it's interesting. You can't make fun of them. Why would you make fun of them? If they're dealing with things in their body, they're dealing with different personality, different spirits, even those that are very biased, even in their binary arguments. Okay? So, yeah, we're in some really interesting times, but we are in Luciferian times. And so how would I even, because even the dogmatic science people, the system is gearing towards a more science-oriented society, not so allegorical religious. Even some of the science people are still stuck in the religion of their sciences. They can't see both sides of the story. And so the J world, the true J world of evolution, literal evolution supported with all food and release, is such a minority. The system won't have an issue with me getting in the way of the agenda. People are doing it to themselves. Yeah, the reason why you know about all the different contraptions and devices and all the things that they're planning as far as just reading your mind and sending you messages and all that shit through light, because they want you to know what they're doing. And so if they want to send me a message through a beam, through my computer, through LED, whatever, I'm strong enough to reject anything deadly and embrace something that's life-giving, even if it's painful. I won't fall into the addictions. But now when I look at IFL Science and any of these science pages that give you both sides of the story, they say, oh, look, we're going to have an active season. I'll just say also, we may not have an active season as far as hurricanes. Prepare for both. Just like with the whole apocalypse. Oh yeah, the staring at the sky or staring at the sun is apocalyptic to those retinas, to those who can't afford to do that, but that's something that's individual. It wasn't like something universal that we all could, that was tangible. So now when anytime the system warns us of something, I'll say it could happen or it could not happen. But I prepare for anything to happen. Because what if it does? Well, what if you play the what if game? Well, in this environment, anything is possible. Everything is unpredictable. Everything is up for grabs. So you might as well prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And still stay alive. Because you have no idea now what's coming down the line. And if you're like, oh, well, you said there was going to be a crazy apocalypse back on that Monday, Jillian, of April, whatever it was. And it didn't happen. Why should we believe you now? All I'm saying is prepare for both. The best and the worst case scenario. That's all you can do. I don't have the fucking blueprint. But if you see indicators, and I have been, I prepare for both. I don't take shit for granted. I know what kind of world I live in. We're in climate change. I feel it every fucking day. People dropping like flies. Here's an indicator. People around you are dropping like flies. Died suddenly. Shouldn't that freaking alarm you? Oh no, it's supposed to happen. Because they took the V. If they'd taken some kind of like, holistic remedy, they wouldn't die. Okay. I've been feeling some shit the last 3 years. I had no VACCINE in me at all. I'm not under the influence. So I know exactly how aggressive this environment is. I know exactly the world I'm dealing with. And so even though you don't know because you're under the influence or you're starving yourself, doesn't mean it's not happening. Your ignorance doesn't mean it's not happening. Your lack of belief doesn't mean that shit isn't going on. It just means that you'll be traumatized when it does fucking happen to you, whatever that is. Fine. You've been warned. So yeah, Luciferianism. It's in all religions. It's in all politics, all sciences. And you're going to have people kill you with kindness, love you to death. And they'll be wishing love and light onto you until your dying day. That was intended.